The email sitting in my drafts folder for 3 weeks was titled, Notice of Cosigner Withdrawal Effective Immediately. I never sent it, not because I felt guilty, because I was waiting to feel something other than numb. Let me back up. I'm a licensed practical nurse. I've been working 12-hour shifts at a rehabilitation center in Columbus since I was 23. My feet hurt constantly. My back gives out twice a year, and I eat lunch standing up in a hallway approximately 4 days out of 5. I'm not complaining. I chose this. I love my patients. But I want you to understand who I am when this story starts. I'm the person who shows up. For everyone, no matter what. My younger sister and I grew up close, or at least I thought we did. She's 3 years younger than me, and after our mom passed from ovarian cancer when I was 26 and she was 23, I became the person she called first. For everything. Broken lease. Car insurance lapse. Credit card debt she'd let balloon to $14,000 without telling anyone. I handled it. All of it. Not because she asked me to. Not always. Sometimes I just found out and fixed it before it became a catastrophe, because that's what I did. That's what I'd always done. When she started dating her boyfriend, I'll call him her boyfriend because that's what he still was in my head even after 2 years, even after the engagement. I tried to like him. I really did. He was charming in the way that takes you a while to realize his performance. He remembered your coffee order the first time, complimented things you'd forgotten you owned, laughed at everything you said like you were the funniest person in the room. For about 6 months, I thought, okay, maybe this is good for her. Then the requests started. The first one was small. Could I spot them $800 for first and last month's rent on a new apartment? They'd pay me back by the end of the month. They didn't. When I brought it up 2 months later, my sister said she thought her boyfriend had handled it, and her boyfriend said he thought she had, and somehow I walked away feeling like I'd done something wrong by asking. The second request was for $3,200. Her boyfriend wanted to take a certification course to become a personal trainer. It would change everything, he said. He'd be making 6 figures within 2 years. She called me while he was in the room. I could tell because her voice had that slightly too casual quality she gets when she's performing for an audience. I said I'd think about it. I transferred the money 4 days later. I don't know why. I think I still believed in them then. Or I believed in her at least. The certification never led anywhere. 18 months later, he was still doing sporadic sessions at a gym 20 minutes from their apartment, charging $45 an hour and booking maybe 8 clients a week on a good week. She was working at a marketing firm, supporting both of them, and telling me over the phone that things were picking up in a tone that made me think of someone describing weather through a window they couldn't open. When she called me about the house, I was sitting in my car in the parking lot of the rehab center after a 10-hour shift. It was February. My heat takes 4 minutes to kick in. She said they'd found the perfect place. A new build in a suburb about 25 minutes from downtown Columbus. 3 bedrooms, a finished basement, a yard. That sounds beautiful, I said. We need you to co-sign the mortgage. I didn't say anything for a moment. The heat was starting to come on. Their debt-to-income ratio is too high, she said. Not we, their. Like she'd already started separating herself from the problem, and his credit score took a hit last year when he missed a few payments on the certification loan. I didn't know there had been a certification loan. I thought I paid for the certification course outright. What certification loan? I asked. She explained, a little too quickly, that he'd taken out an additional loan to cover equipment and materials the course hadn't included. It wasn't a big deal. He was paying it down. The bank just needed to see my name on the mortgage to approve the full amount. The full amount was $387,000. I asked for 2 weeks to think about it. In those 2 weeks, I talked to my best friend, who was an accountant, and who looked me in the eye over dinner and said, if they default, it's your credit and your liability. You understand that, right? Not partially yours, completely yours. I talked to my coworker who'd co-signed a car loan for her nephew and spent the next 3 years watching her credit score crater when he stopped making payments. I lay awake at 2 a.m., doing math I didn't fully understand. trying to find the version of this story where it made sense. And then I thought about my mother. About the last thing she said to me, sitting in the hospital bed 2 days before she died, her voice smaller than I'd ever heard it. She told me to watch out for my sister. To make sure she was okay. To be there for her the way I'd always been. I held her hand and I said, I will, and I meant it. I co-signed the mortgage. The closing was in April. I drove to the title company office on a Tuesday morning, took 2 hours off work, sat across from a notary and signed my name 37 times on documents I'd read 3 times each the night before. My sister hugged me in the parking lot afterward. Her boyfriend shook my hand. They moved in 6 weeks later. The first year wasn't bad. They had a housewarming. I helped them paint the living room a shade of gray-green that my sister had picked off a Pinterest board. I brought food when they were too busy to cook. I didn't ask about mortgage payments. I assumed they were making them. I had no reason not to. They'd told me his client list was growing, she'd gotten a raise, things were finally stabilizing. It was my sister who first mentioned the renovation ideas in the spring of the second year. She called it maximizing the investment. They wanted to finish the attic into a content studio. Her boyfriend had started a fitness YouTube channel and needed proper lighting and backdrops. The estimate was $22,000. I'm not paying for that, I said. It came out fast and flat and I surprised myself. No one asked you to pay, she said. We're going to take out a home equity line of credit. We just want to know what you think. I didn't love it. A HELOC on a house I was co-signed on for a renovation that was essentially a vanity project for a YouTube channel with, I later checked, 412 subscribers. But it wasn't technically my decision. I said I'd support whatever they chose. They took out the HELOC. The YouTube channel had 423 subscribers 8 months later. That fall, they started having trouble making the mortgage payment. My sister didn't tell me directly. I found out because I have a mortgage alert set up through my bank, a co-borrower notification that pings me if a payment is late. It went off on a Thursday in October, 11 days after the due date. I called her that evening. It was a mistake, she said. We forgot, it's handled. It was late again in November and December. In January, she called me to ask if I could cover 1 month, just to get them through a slow patch. Her boyfriend had lost 3 clients right after the holidays. The way personal training always dips in January for some reason she couldn't explain and I found hard to believe. She said they'd pay me back by March. I sat with that for a long time. Then I said yes. I don't know how to explain that decision except to say that my mother's voice had a weight to it that I still carried everywhere. And I was tired. And when you've been saying yes your whole life, the architecture of saying no is something you have to build from scratch. March came, they didn't pay me back. In April, she called to ask for another month. I asked her to meet me for coffee, just us. No him. She came, but she seemed distracted in the way she gets when she knows a conversation is coming and has already decided how she wants it to go. I asked her, plainly, whether the mortgage situation was sustainable. I asked whether his income was actually growing or whether that was something they kept saying to themselves. I asked whether she was happy. She told me I was being negative. She told me I didn't understand what it was like to build something with someone, to invest in a future that didn't have guaranteed returns. She told me her boyfriend was talented and the channel was growing and I just needed to be patient. I've been patient for 2 years, I said. And it's 2 years, she said. That's nothing. Businesses take time. I asked about the HELOC. She said they were managing it. I paid another month of the mortgage. I told myself it was the last time. It wasn't the last time. May. Then again in July when they skipped a payment entirely and I got the alert and called and she cried on the phone and said things were really hard right now and could I please just help them get through the summer. I was running a total deficit of about $14,800 between the 2 months I'd covered directly and some expenses I'd quietly absorbed along the way. Groceries I'd bought when I visited and quietly paid for before she noticed, a car repair for her in March, a gas bill that had gone to collections and that I'd handled without telling her because I couldn't stand the stress of what would happen if I didn't. That August, I took a week off work. I spent a lot of it on my couch with my best friend, going through everything. She is the kind of person who prints things out. She printed out my bank statements, the mortgage terms, a legal overview of cosigner liability she'd found through a resource at her firm. We sat at my kitchen table and we looked at it all together. "You are on the hook for this entire loan if they default," she said, for the third time in 2 years. But something about the way she said it that time in August, after everything, it landed differently. "I know," I said. "So what are you going to do?" I didn't have an answer that day. The answer came in September. Or rather, they gave me the answer and I just finally accepted it. I'd driven out to the house on a Saturday to help them replace a bathroom fixture that had started leaking. This is the kind of thing I did. I showed up with a wrench and a YouTube tutorial and I fixed things. Her boyfriend was gone when I arrived, at the gym, she said. I spent 2 hours on the bathroom floor fixing a valve that should have been addressed 6 months ago. When I came downstairs, she was on a video call. I heard it before I saw it. Her boyfriend's voice from her laptop screen talking about a retreat, a couples wellness retreat in Sedona. 5 days. She'd apparently already looked at the pricing because I heard her say the premium package includes everything, meals and the ceremony sessions and the private canyon hike. I stood in the doorway of the kitchen. She noticed me, waved vaguely, kept talking. I walked to the sink to wash my hands. The premium package, I found out later when I couldn't stop myself from looking it up, started at $4,800 per couple. I did not say anything that day. I cleaned up. I said goodbye. I drove home. That night, my sister texted me, not about the retreat, about the November mortgage payment. She wanted to let me know in advance that it was going to be tight and could I be available to help if needed. I read the message 3 times. I thought about my mother. I thought about what she'd actually said. Watch out for your sister. Make sure she's okay. I thought about whether this was okay. I thought about the retreat and the HELOC and the $14,800 and the 3 years of certification loans and first and last month rent and car repairs and a grocery bill I'd paid in silence because I didn't want to fight. I thought about my own savings account, which had not grown in 3 years, and my own apartment, which I liked but which I'd stopped thinking about buying because every time I ran the numbers I was somehow always short. I thought about my mother, and I thought, she told me to make sure my sister was okay. She didn't say anything about making sure her boyfriend got to go to Sedona. I opened my laptop. I looked up the process for requesting removal as a cosigner on a mortgage. A cosigner release requires the primary borrowers to qualify on their own. The lender reviews their financials and, if they pass, releases the cosigner from obligation. It is not a fast process. And if the borrowers can't qualify, the lender doesn't have to release you. But I could also refinance. They would need to refinance without me, which would force the bank to reevaluate their standing. I called a housing attorney on a Monday morning. She explained my options. I explained the payment history. She was quiet for a moment and then said, carefully, if they can't sustain payments now, they are unlikely to qualify for a refinance without you. The bank may move toward foreclosure proceedings if they default significantly. What happens to my credit if they default? I asked. It takes the same hit as theirs, she said. A foreclosure on a co-signed mortgage affects you identically. I asked her what I could do proactively. She told me. I drafted a letter that week, formal notice that I was initiating a request for co-signer release, and that in the event the lender would not process a release, I was formally requesting they pursue a refinance in their names only within 90 days. I was not removing myself yet. The bank had to agree to that. But I was starting the clock. I was creating a paper trail. I was, for the first time in 3 years, building something for myself instead of just absorbing the costs of theirs. I mailed a letter, and then I called my sister. She didn't pick up. I left a voicemail. I said I had sent her something important and that we needed to talk and that I loved her and that I was not going away, but that some things had to change. She texted back 40 minutes later. Can this wait until after the Sedona trip? We leave Thursday. I looked at that message for a long time. I texted back, no. She called me that evening. Her boyfriend was on the call too. I could tell from the ambient sound, the way her voice performed its casual quality. I said I'd like to talk to her alone. She said there were no secrets between them and whatever I had to say I could say to both of them. So I did. I told them I'd sent the letter. I told them what it meant. I told them they had 90 days to pursue refinancing or I would escalate the request with the lender. I told them clearly, for the first time with words instead of silence, that I had been covering their mortgage payments and absorbing costs for over a year, and that I could not continue to do that, and that I was not willing to risk my financial future to subsidize a life they had built beyond their means. Her boyfriend spoke first. He said I was jealous, that I'd always resented their relationship, that I was sabotaging their investment because I couldn't stand to see them happy and stable while I was alone. He used the word vindictive. He used the phrase financial terrorism. I'm not exaggerating. I have the call in my recent history and I've listened to it twice since. I said, I'd like to speak to my sister. He kept talking. My sister said eventually, I think you're being really cruel right now. I've paid almost $15,000 in the last year and a half, I said. I fixed your bathroom this weekend. I'm not being cruel, I'm stopping. She said I was acting like she owed me. I said she did. Not emotionally. I didn't say that. Financially. Literally. She owed me money I had paid on her behalf. She hung up. The Sedona trip happened. I know because her boyfriend posted about it. Photos of red rock formations at sunset, a caption about radical healing and investing in your partnership, $4,300 at minimum for a couple who could not make their mortgage payment in August. I didn't comment. I didn't text. I let the letter sit with the bank. 3 weeks after they got back from Sedona, I got a voicemail from my sister. Her voice sounded different than it had on our last call. Smaller, I thought. The way my mother's voice had gone small at the end, except this was a different kind of small. She said the lender had sent them a refinancing package. She said they'd taken it to 2 banks. She said both had declined. Her boyfriend's debt-to-income ratio was too high, even with her income included. They did not qualify for the loan on their own. She asked me to reconsider. I called her back, not to reconsider. I had made peace with my decision in a way that felt quiet and solid, like a room after you've cleaned it. I called her back because I wanted to hear her voice, because I missed my sister, the real one, the one who used to call me when she was scared instead of when she needed something. We talked for a long time. I told her I wasn't doing this to hurt her. I told her I thought she was in a relationship with someone who was spending her money and her future and her relationship with me, and that I'd watched it happen for 3 years and said nothing because I was afraid of losing her. I told her that was my mistake and I wasn't making it anymore. She cried. I cried too. It was the most honest conversation we'd had in years. She didn't break up with him. Not then. I didn't ask her to. That's her life and her choice. But she said she would talk to him about the finances. She said she'd talk to a financial counselor. She said she didn't know things had gotten as bad as I was describing, though I think some part of her did know, and had been choosing the Sedona version of reality because the other one was harder to live in. The bank sent a formal notice to both of us 6 weeks later. Without a cosigner or a successful refinance, they were initiating a review of the loan terms. The mortgage would require either a qualifying cosigner replacement or a restructured payment plan, with a potential flag for the account if they continued to miss payments. My sister called me after she got it. She wasn't angry this time, she was quiet. I need to figure this out, she said. I know, I said. I don't know what we're going to do. You'll figure it out, I said. And I meant it. Not in a dismissive way, in the way you mean it when you believe someone is more capable than they've been allowing themselves to be. They listed the house 3 months later. The market had cooled some from when they bought, but they were able to sell without going underwater. Barely after fees, but barely was enough. They moved into an apartment. Her boyfriend moved in with them, then moved out 6 weeks later. My sister called me the night he left. She said it was mutual. Her voice was tired and a little raw but steadier than I expected. I drove over with dinner. Just the two of us, take out on her apartment floor because she hadn't bought furniture yet. We ate pad thai and talked about nothing for a while. Her new neighborhood, a plant she was thinking about getting, a coworker she liked. At some point she said quietly, "I'm sorry I let it go so far." "I'm sorry I didn't say anything sooner," I said. We were both right. My credit score took a small hit from the late payment flags before the sale went through. My attorney helped me document everything, the payments I'd made, the dates, the amounts. Getting reimbursed is a longer conversation, one we're still having carefully. But my name is off the mortgage. My financial future is mine again. I opened a first-time homebuyer savings account in November, and I have been contributing to it every month like a person who believes she will one day have something of her own. My sister and I talk twice a week now, real conversations. She is, I think, in the slow, unglamorous process of figuring out who she is without someone spending her choices for her. It takes time. I know that better than anyone. My mother told me to watch out for her. I used to think that meant making sure nothing bad ever happened to her. I understand now that it means something different. It means not looking away when something bad already is. It means saying the hard thing, even when your voice shakes. Even when she hangs up on you. Even when you eat dinner on an apartment floor, and everything still feels a little fragile. It means showing up as yourself, not just as the person who signs things and pays things and fixes the bathroom valve in silence. I'm still learning to be both. There's a specific kind of exhaustion that comes not from working too hard, but from carrying something you were never supposed to carry alone. I know that exhaustion intimately. I felt it in parking lots after 10-hour shifts, in the silence after I hit transfer on another payment I told myself was the last one, in the way I stopped doing my own financial math because the answer kept coming out wrong and I didn't want to look at it. What I've come to understand, slowly, the way you understand things that cost you something, is that the consequences in this story weren't punishment. They were just physics. When you build a life on someone else's willingness to absorb your risk, the structure is never as solid as it looks. My sister and her boyfriend built something real, a yard, a finished basement, a content studio, on a foundation that required me to keep standing underneath it. The moment I stepped aside, the math revealed itself. Not because I wanted them to fall, because gravity exists whether or not anyone acknowledges it. I think about the person I was when I co-signed that mortgage. I was not naive. I'm a nurse. I understand how bodies fail. I understand consequences. But I let grief make my decisions for me. My mother's voice, the weight of that promise, the fear that loving my sister meant never saying no to her. That wasn't loyalty. It was something closer to avoidance dressed up as devotion. The honest version of keeping my promise to my mother was harder than I wanted it to be. It required me to see clearly what was happening, say it out loud, and keep saying it even after she hung up on me. That clarity, the willingness to look at the actual numbers, the actual pattern, the actual trajectory, is something I had to build deliberately. It didn't come naturally. I had to sit at a kitchen table with a printed spreadsheet and let my best friend show me what I already knew. Wisdom isn't passive. It requires you to stop making the information comfortable and start making it useful. And then there's the part that took the most out of me, staying, not leaving the situation, initiating the letter, pulling my name, protecting my future, but staying in the relationship with my sister through all of it, calling her back after she hung up, driving over with dinner when her boyfriend left. That took something different than clarity. It took the kind of stubbornness that looks like softness from the outside, deciding that the relationship was worth the discomfort of honesty, deciding I was allowed to have a boundary and a sister at the same time. I don't think I'm a cautionary tale. I think I'm a person who said yes for too long and then learned, at real cost, with real difficulty, how to say something more honest. My credit score took a hit. My savings account stalled for 3 years. But I know now what I'm willing to carry and what I'm not. And I know the difference between love and absorption. My sister is figuring herself out. I'm building something of my own, finally, A savings account, a future, a version of showing up for people that doesn't require me to disappear. My mother told me to watch out for her. I think this, finally, is what that actually looks like.